Chapter 222. Then, most of the Shifang sword sect disciples looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent before rushing into the light gate. Brother Tianyun, you must be careful, Myong Cheng warned with a solemn expression. Brother Ming, don't worry. I'm not afraid of anyone below the 7th level of the martial Grandmaster realm. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He was very confident. During this period of time, he had been training hard in the Divine Wind Valley and gained a lot. His combat strength had greatly increased, so he was naturally confident. I believe in Brother Tianyun. Those people from the Shifang sword sect won't be able to do anything to you, Myong Cheng said. The scene of him sparring with Lu Ming a month ago was still vivid in his mind. Let's go in, Myong Cheng said. Lu Ming nodded and rushed into the light gate with Myong Cheng. When the disciples from both sides rushed into the light gate, the red-haired old man pondered for a while and whispered a few words to an old man beside him. The old man nodded and turned into a rainbow light and disappeared into the sky. Akira Noji's eyes flashed and he also said a few words to an elder of the Shifang sword sect. That elder also turned into a rainbow light and disappeared. On the other side, the sky and earth spun. Then, Lu Ming felt his body falling. Around him, there was a burst of moist air. Lu Ming took a closer look and smiled bitterly. It turned out that he was in the air and below him was a large river that flowed endlessly. The river was at least 100 meters wide and the river water was turbulent. No one knew where it flowed to. Lu Ming was falling toward the river. High air step. Lu Ming took a deep breath and stepped on the void. His body became as light as a feather as he slowly descended. Splash. Suddenly, the river water below surged and a blood red ant rushed out of the river. It waved its sharp claws and clawed at Lu Ming. This blood red ant was very large. It was the size of a puppy. Compared to other ants, it was many times larger. Blood ant. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. With a wave of his hand, a long spear condensed and stabbed forward. Poochie. The long spear pierced through the blood ant's mouth, and the blood ant's head exploded. He sucked in the true chi in his palm and grabbed the blood ant's corpse. Blood ant egg. Lu Ming found a blood-red ball the size of a longan in the abdomen of the blood ant. The round ball emitted a dense blood aura. It was their target this time, the blood ant egg. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming's Zhen Qi was like a knife as he took the blood ant egg into his hand. Then, he stepped on the river with the tip of his foot. His body floated forward and landed on the riverside. I didn't expect there to be blood ants in the river. Lu Ming smiled. This blood ant is equivalent to a first-level martial master. It is a Class 1 LV3 demonic beast. It is said that a Class 1 LV3 demonic beast's blood ant will condense one blood ant egg in its abdomen. A Class 2 LV3 blood ant will condense 2 blood ant eggs in its abdomen. A Class 3 LV3 blood ant will condense 4 blood ant eggs. The higher the rank, the higher the number. The blood ant eggs condensed by the blood ant will be twice as many as the previous rank. I have to find a higher-ranked blood ant to quickly obtain the blood ant eggs. Lu Ming pondered. Then, he followed the river to see if he could find any blood ants. Splash. Soon, a blood ant emerged from the river and pounced on Lu Ming. This blood ant was bigger than the previous one. There were 2 blood ant eggs in its abdomen. A Class 2 LV3 blood ant. Lu Ming was delighted. He stabbed out with his spear and killed the blood ant. With this, Lu Ming had 3 blood ant eggs. My luck is not bad. I have just entered and I have already obtained 3 blood ant eggs. If I get 3 more, I can exchange them for a blood refining pill. Thinking of the blood refining pill, Lu Ming was full of motivation. He continued to walk along the river. Rustle. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from a mound beside the river. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he rushed toward the mound. Lu Ming was overjoyed when he saw the mound. There was a cave in the mound and a few blood ants were going in and out. Could it be an ant nest? Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he was about to rush out. Not far away, there was the sound of something breaking through the air. 7 figures were rushing toward him. Ant nest, it's an ant nest. Haha, we are so lucky. We just entered and we already found an ant nest. A loud laugh was heard. People from the Shifang sword sect. There was a cold smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. Tianyun. The 7 disciples of the Shifang sword sect also saw Lu Ming and their faces changed slightly. Good, we are so lucky. Not only did we find an ant nest, but we also met Tianyun. As long as we kill him, Elder Qiu Wuji will reward us handsomely. The eyes of the 7 youths lit up. Lucky. The sneer at the corners of Lu Ming's lips deepened. Whoosh, whoosh. The figures of the 7 young men flashed and surrounded Lu Ming. Each of them exuded a powerful aura. 6th level martial master. The 7 of them were all in the 6th level martial master realm. 4 of them were at the peak of the 6th level martial master realm. Tianyun, it's your bad luck to meet the 7 swords of the He clan. Today is the day you die. One of the oldest youths sneered. Although Lu Ming had shown great strength before, they were not afraid and were confident that they could kill Lu Ming. In the Shifang sword sect, they were famous geniuses. The 7 of them were from the same clan and were known as the 7 swords of the He clan. They were good at joint attacks. When the 7 of them worked together, not many in the 6th level martial master realm could defeat them. In the Shifang sword sect, other than the 6 geniuses who had comprehended force, no other 6th level martial master was a match for the 7 of them. Therefore, they were confident. Shifang sword sect, this time, I'll start with you guys. Lu Ming smiled faintly. You are still so arrogant when you are about to die. Brothers, send him on his way. Clang clang, 7 sounds of swords could be heard. 7 people and 7 long swords set up an impenetrable sword net and charged toward Lu Ming. Landslide. The long spear swept out and collided with the sword net. Dong. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. He felt that when the long spear collided with the sword net, the strong power of the long spear disappeared without a trace. It barely repelled the sword net, but it did not disperse. What a wonderful joint attack. Lu Ming's heart moved. In the last month in the Divine Wind Valley, Lu Ming's cultivation naturally broke through to the 5th level martial master realm. Given the thickness of Lu Ming's vital energy and his cultivation level as a 5th level martial master, the power of a casual spear sweep was extremely terrifying. An ordinary martial artist at the 7th level martial master realm would be whipped to death by the spear. Even an 8th level martial master warrior would be seriously injured. However, it was blocked by the He clan's 7 swords. Ha ha ha, Tianyun, your attack is useless against us. Die. One of the He clan's 7 swords laughed. Kai Kai, the sword auras flashed and densely packed sword auras charged toward Lu Ming. Again, Lu Ming smiled faintly and his true chi increased by 2 points. Boom. This spear was stronger than the previous one. When it hit the sword net, it made the sword net tremble violently. What's going on? How can he have such a strong power? Is this still the power of someone below the 7th level martial master realm? The He clan's 7 swords were shocked. Attack with all your strength and kill him, kill. The 7 people's bloodline erupted. All of them had 5th level bloodline. The eruption of their bloodline greatly increased their battle strength. Go to hell. The He clan's 7 swords roared. Really? You are the ones who will die, Lu Ming said coldly. Boom. Lu Ming's body erupted with a fiery aura like a volcano. Chapter 223. The power of fire erupted and the aura soared into the sky. It was extremely hot. The He clan's 7 swords' faces changed greatly. Power, this is power, the power of fire. What a terrifying power of fire. What level of fire is this? It's too terrifying. Not good. The He clan's 7 swords roared one after another, their faces full of horror. Boom. Lu Ming held a long spear in his hand, his long hair fluttering in the wind like a fire god. Kill. Lu Ming suddenly yelled, and a terrifying spear gleam burst forth. The sword net set up by the He clan's 7 swords collapsed in an instant like paper. Not good, retreat. One of the He clan's 7 swords roared. Retreat. You want to retreat now? It's too late. A cold voice came out from Lu Ming's mouth. Kai Kai, then, several spear lights shot out. A few screams sounded. 4 of the He clan's 7 swords were pierced by Lu Ming's spear light. Run, run! The remaining 3 of the He clan's 7 swords were scared out of their wits and desperately ran away. The 3 of them scattered and fled. However, Lu Ming stepped on the void and seemed to be traveling in the air. He caught up with one person in an instant. "Ah, I'll fight it out with you." The young man roared and charged toward Lu Ming with all his might. However, facing Lu Ming, who used the power of fire, he was too weak and was directly killed by the spear. Then, he chased after the other 2. "Tianyun, you will die a horrible death. My Shifang sword sect will not let you go. You will die without a burial place." In the end, there was no suspense. The remaining 2 were killed by Lu Ming one by one, leaving only desperate roars. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not care. His figure flashed and devoured all the blood essence of the 7 people. However, Lu Ming's current cultivation had reached the 5th level of the Martial Master Realm. The blood essence of a 6th level Martial Master Realm martial artist was of limited help to him. It did not take long for him to completely refine it. Lu Ming's cultivation had only improved slightly. After refining the blood essence, Lu Ming charged towards the ant nest. Kai Kai! Suddenly, a few blood ants pounced on Lu Ming, but they were easily killed by Lu Ming and the eggs were taken away. However, more blood ants crawled out of the nest. There were more than a dozen of them. There were a few of them 2nd level of the 3rd level. Instead of being shocked, Lu Ming was overjoyed. He charged toward the blood ants. Before long, Lu Ming had 20 blood ant eggs in his hands. In addition to the previous blood ant eggs, the blood ant eggs in Lu Ming's hands could be exchanged for 4 blood refinement pills. Lu Ming was very excited. He charged into the ant nest. However, the number of blood ants in this ant nest was not as many as expected. There were only slightly more than 50 blood ants. 2 hours later, Lu Ming killed all of them. "Haha, my luck is not bad." Lu Ming laughed. He left the ant nest and continued his search. This small plain was very large. It was even larger than the small plain left behind by the Dongi ancestors that Lu Ming had entered before. Lu Ming searched 100 miles, but he felt that he had only occupied a small corner of this small plain. He did not even encounter many other people. Lu Ming's luck seemed to have run out in the next 2 days. He did not even encounter many blood ants, let alone ant nests. In 2 days, he had only obtained 18 eggs. It is said that the depths of this small plain is the nest of the blood ants. There is a mother ant inside. It is said that there are a large number of blood ant eggs, all of which were shed by the blood ants. However, that place is very dangerous. Many experts die there every time. If I don't get much in the next few days, I will go to the nest of the blood ants. Lu Ming thought to himself as he continued to search for blood ants. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he stopped. He smelled a fragrance. It was the fragrance of spiritual herbs. There are spiritual herbs nearby? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. His eyes flashed with a fiery light. The blood ant arcane realm was a small plane that had just been born. Although it was not very stable, it was very easy to nurture rare treasures. It was like the birth of heaven and earth. It was the easiest place to nurture treasures. Once a spiritual herb was nurtured in such an environment, it would definitely not be an ordinary item. Lu Ming's nose twitched. He memorized it, found the right direction, and sped off. Soon, he saw a few figures in front of him. They were also heading in that direction. Lu Ming recognized them at a glance. They were from the Decimo Sword sect. It seems that this spiritual herb is not to be underestimated. It has attracted many people. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile as he sped forward. A wide lake appeared in front of him. The lake was very large. It was at least 1,000 meters wide. The lake water was as clear as a mirror. At this moment, there were no less than 50 people around the lake. Lu Ming was slightly surprised that there were so many people here. Then, Lu Ming looked at the lake. There was a spiritual herb in the middle of the lake. It was a jade-green spiritual herb with 9 leaves. The leaves were crystal clear, as if they were polished from green jade. There was a spiritual fruit in the middle of the 9 leaves. The spiritual fruit looked like a dragon. It was vivid and lifelike. Spiritual dragon fruit. This is the spiritual dragon fruit. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. His eyes shone with a strong light. The spiritual dragon fruit was an extremely rare spiritual herb. It was rare in the world. Legend had it that if a martial grandmaster martial artist swallowed it, his cultivation would definitely break through to the next level. Even if a martial ancestor martial artist swallowed it, there was a high chance of breaking through to the next level. The medicinal effect was extremely shocking. But to Lu Ming, this was not the most attractive thing. What attracted Lu Ming the most was the help the spiritual dragon fruit provided to the true dragon battling technique. Now, Lu Ming's true dragon battling technique had been cultivated to the 3rd level for a long time. But to cultivate to the 4th level, he would need 6 precious materials. However, nothing was set in stone. It did not mean that he had to have these 6 materials. There were some very precious natural treasures that could replace 6. The spiritual dragon fruit was such a rare treasure. A single spiritual dragon fruit could help Lu Ming cultivate to the 4th level of the true dragon battling technique. How could Lu Ming not be tempted? Once he cultivated to the 4th level, Lu Ming's true qi would be 5 times stronger than ordinary true qi. Lu Ming's battle strength would definitely increase exponentially. I must get the spiritual dragon fruit. Lu Ming thought to himself. He looked at the spiritual dragon fruit carefully. At this moment, there was a faint layer of light on the spiritual dragon fruit. In the light, he could vaguely see a small dragon dancing. An extremely rich medicinal fragrance was constantly emitted, stirring one's nerves. Obviously, the spiritual dragon fruit was not fully ripe, but it was close to being fully ripe. This was also the reason why so many people had gathered here, but no one had made a move yet. The spiritual dragon fruit was not fully ripe. If it was plucked, its medicinal effect would be greatly reduced. It would not even have 1/10 of the medicinal effect of a fully ripe fruit. It would not be able to break through at all. Tianyun, it's you. Chapter 224. A cold shout came from nearby as a few youths from the Decimo Sword sect noticed him. The voice shook the entire place. More than 50 youths turned their heads and looked at Lu Ming. It's really Tianyun. There are so many of us here and he still dares to appear. Haha, he's courting death. Let's join forces and kill him. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Lu Ming scanned the area. He was well aware of the situation. There were more than 30 youths from the Decimo Sword sect here. There were also nearly 20 youths from the Star General Hall, including 3 of the top 10 outer hall experts. Tianyun, he's mine. A sinister voice came from the Decimo Sword sect. A young man in a blue robe strode out and looked at Lu Ming with a cold smile. Senior brother Shui Hen. Is senior brother Shui Hen going to take action personally? Tianyun is dead meat. When the young man walked out, there were exclamations from the Decimo Sword sect. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He remembered that this young man was one of the 6 geniuses in the Decimo Sword sect who had comprehended force. Tianyun, you're really blinded by greed. How dare you appear here? You're really courting death. Fine, I'll finish you off and complete one of Elder Chio's tasks. Shui Hen looked at Lu Ming and said calmly. His tone was full of confidence as if Lu Ming was already a piece of meat in his mouth. A few disciples of the Decimo Sword sect said the same thing to me before, but they're already on their way. Lu Ming smiled indifferently. What? Tianyun, you killed another disciple of the Decimo Sword sect. How dare you? Do you know that you're committing a heinous crime? A disciple of the Decimo Sword sect yelled. Ridiculous. Lu Ming merely uttered 2 words calmly. There were always some people who felt good about themselves, as if they were the only ones who could kill others. If others resisted, they would be committing a heinous crime. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with such people. Tianyun, no matter what. Now that you've met me, you're dead. Liu Shureihen's face turned gloomy as a powerful aura emanated from his body. Force, the force of water. Cut the crap. Like I said before, let's see who will kill who. Lu Ming pointed the spear in his hand, his killing intent bursting forth. At this moment, an even more intense fragrance wafted out. Everyone was shocked. The spirit flood dragon fruit was about to mature. Tianyun, I'll let you live a little longer. I'll kill you after I get the spirit dragon fruit, Liu Shui Hen said coldly. He looked at the Jiaoling fruit with a burning gaze. As long as he obtained the flood dragon spirit fruit, he would be able to use it to break through to the 7th level martial grandmaster realm. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone in the blood and secret realm, not even Yang Zitian. At that time, how many bloodant eggs would he be able to obtain if he killed his way into the bloodant's nest? When he thought of this, his heart was burning. Breaking through to the 7th level martial grandmaster realm in the bloodant secret realm would not be rejected. People of the Star General Hall, if you dare to attack, I won't let any of you out. Liu Shui Hen looked coldly at the people of the Star General Hall. Liu Shui Hen, the bloodant secret realm is not yours. Everyone has a share. A young man from the Star General Hall said. He was one of the top 10 experts of the Star General Hall. As long as he obtained the spirit dragon fruit, he would be able to break through to the 7th level martial grandmaster realm. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of the Shifang sword faction. Therefore, he was very strong and didn't want to back down. You're courting death. Wait until I obtain the spirit dragon fruit and break through to the next level. I'll kill all these trash from the Star General Hall. Liu Shui Hen's eyes flickered with a sinister light. Roar. Suddenly, the spirit dragon fruit let out a dragon's roar. The spirit dragon fruit shone brightly and a burst of medicinal fragrance spread throughout the area. After a few breaths, the brilliance dimmed, and the medicinal fragrance also faded, becoming more restrained. The spirit dragon fruit had ripened. The spirit dragon fruit is mine. Liu Shui Hen roared and leaped out like an arrow, shooting towards the spirit dragon fruit at high speed. Whoosh! Whoosh! The people of the Star General Hall and the Shifang sword faction also rushed toward the spirit dragon fruit. Get out of my way! Liu Shui Hen roared and punched out. The surface of the lake exploded and pillars of water formed and shot toward the people of the Star General Hall. Damn it! The experts of the Star General Hall joined forces and blocked the water pillars. However, their bodies were hindered and they fell toward the lake. They stepped on the surface of the lake and stopped themselves. However, Liu Shui Hen had already run a long distance. Trash like you want to stop me? The spirit dragon fruit is mine. Liu Shui Hen sneered in his heart. However, he was stunned in the next moment. A figure stepped on the void and leaped over his head, heading straight for the spirit dragon fruit. Tianyun, stop right there. You're courting death. Liu Shui Hen roared. He stepped on the surface of the water and dashed forward at high speed. At the same time, he waved his palms and the nearby lake water was driven by him. It condensed into water swords and pierced toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't even look and swept out with his spear. Bam! Bam! There was a loud explosion. The water swords were not scattered, but Lu Ming's body was affected by a huge force and fell down. The force of water is indeed amazing, especially on the surface of the lake. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Haha, Lu Ming, you haven't comprehended the force. You're still trash. Today, you're dead. Liu Shui Hen laughed and a battle sword that looked like autumn water appeared in his hand. He waved the battle sword and the lake water formed pillars of water that blasted toward Lu Ming together with the sword chi. What's so great about comprehending the force? There was a cold smile on Lu Ming's lips as he spoke faintly. What's so great about it? Haha, you're just jealous, right? Liu Shui Hen's voice stopped as he spoke. Because at this moment, Lu Ming's body suddenly burst out with a light and sharp chi. Force, the force of wind. Buzz. Lu Ming's spear shook and a gust of wind whistled out. The spear swept out and a tornado appeared on the surface of the lake. Bam! Bam! Liu Shui Hen's water pillars were instantly scattered and the powerful force of the spear blasted toward Liu Shui Hen. Liu Shui Hen exerted all his strength and slashed out with his sword, which clashed with Lu Ming's spear. Bam! Liu Shui Hen's body was directly sent flying and hit the surface of the lake, causing a large splash. Liu Shui Hen was directly blasted into the lake. Behind him, the other disciples of Ten Directions Sword Sect and Star General Hall all gasped and widened their eyes. For a moment, their bodies slowed down. Splash! The lake water splashed and Liu Shui-hen rushed out of the lake and shouted in disbelief, "Force of wind has reached minor accomplishment." How can you cultivate force of wind to minor accomplishment? He could feel that Lu Ming's force of wind had reached minor accomplishment and its power was shocking. As for his water force, it was only at the entry level. It was unknown how far away it was from minor accomplishment. Isn't it just force? What's so great about it that you have to talk about it all the time? Chapter 225. During the 2 months in the Divine Wind Valley, Lu Ming's wind force had been improving at a rapid pace. Just a few days before entering the Blood and Secret Realm, his wind force had finally reached the minor accomplishment realm. There was a huge difference between someone who had reached initial success in force and someone who had yet to reach initial success. Liu Shui-hen's face was flushed red. Previously, he had been arrogant and looked down on Lu Ming because he had comprehended force. But in the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had slapped him hard in the face with an even stronger force. The thing that he was so proud of was not worth mentioning in Lu Ming's eyes. This was a serious blow to his confidence. Kill. Let's kill him together. Liu Shui-hen roared in anger. He must kill Lu Ming. Kill. More than 30 disciples of the Decimo Sword Sect roared as they ran on the lake toward Lu Ming. It was not difficult for martial artists above the 3rd level of the Martial Master Realm to walk on the water. More than 30 people attacked together and their power was terrifying. Suddenly, the lake's surface was turbulent and the waves swept over like a tsunami. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent as he shook the demon-banishing spear. Suddenly, kai, dozens of spear radiances shot out. Under the support of the wind force, these spear radiances were shockingly fast and had terrifying penetrative power. Blood splattered and screams were heard. In an instant, more than a dozen disciples of the Decimo Sword Sect were assassinated. Blood dyed the lake red. Kill. Lu Ming stepped on the void and rushed into the crowd like a tiger in a flock of sheep. No one could stop him as he reaped the lives of the disciples of the Decimo Sword Sect. Not far away, the disciples of the General Hall stopped and looked at this scene with pale faces. This Tianyun is too ruthless, isn't he? He really dares to kill the disciples of the Decimo Sword Sect. Ruthless. This is a real ruthless person. The Star General Hall student's throat trembled as he cried out in shock. Liu Shui-hen's face was also pale as he shouted, "Kill him." However, he quickly ran toward the spirit dragon fruit. Liu Shui-hen, you're despicable. A disciple of the Decimo Sword Sect roared. In the same sect, there was a lot of competition. Of course, it was impossible for them to be so united. At this moment, Liu Shui-hen was the first to slip away. He wanted to seize the opportunity to snatch the Flood Dragon Spirit Fruit. Naturally, they wouldn't allow that. Let's go, we're going to fight for the Spirit Dragon Fruit too. The Spirit Dragon Fruit is mine. The remaining 10 Directions Sword Sect disciples immediately abandoned Lu Ming and ran toward the Spirit Flood Dragon Fruit. Do you think it's that easy to come and go as you please? Lu Ming sneered. His figure swooped down like a goshawk. He pulled out his long spear. 2 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School screamed as they were killed on the lake. The others were horrified. Lu Ming tapped his foot on the surface of the lake and chased after Liu Shui-hen. At this moment, Liu Shui-hen was already close to the Spirit Dragon Fruit. Ha ha ha, the Flood Dragon Spirit Fruit is mine. As long as I pluck it, hide at the bottom of the lake, and refine it, Tianyun will die. Liu Shui-hen's eyes flickered with a sinister light, but at the same time, there was a hint of excitement in them. He reached out his hand, and his true qi gushed out as he was about to pluck the Spirit Dragon Fruit. Splash! At this moment, the surface of the lake suddenly surged. A giant claw covered with sharp spikes reached out from the lake and grabbed at Liu Shui-hen. What the hell is this? Liu Shui-hen's expression changed drastically. He slashed out with his battle sword and hit the giant claw. Sparks flew everywhere, but he was sent flying by the giant claw. Damn it! Liu Shui-hen roared. Seeing the fat meat in his mouth disappear, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Splash! The surface of the lake surged as another giant claw came out. 2 disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect were caught off guard and were smashed into meat patties. Since then, only a dozen disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect were left. It was a heavy loss. Whoosh! The lake surged, and the thing under the lake was finally revealed. It was a monster that was dozens of meters long. Its body was covered with spikes, and its mouth was long and pointy. Anteater! Could it be an anteater? Someone shouted. This guy looked very similar to an anteater. It was very possible. The blood ant secret realm bred a large number of blood ants. It was normal for anteaters that fed on blood ants to be born. However, the size of this anteater was a little too big. The anteater appeared and let out a sharp cry. It moved the lake and pounced at Liu Shuai-hen and the others. The shocking thing was that at this moment, behind Lu Ming and the group, the lake water was surging and another anteater had appeared. The 2 anteaters surrounded Lu Ming and the group and charged toward them. Kai kai! A dozen spikes shot out from the anteater's body. The spikes pierced through the air and let out a terrifying whistling sound. One of the spikes shot at Lu Ming. Lu Ming pulled out his long spear and knocked the spike away. What a powerful force! Lu Ming felt his arm go numb. The anteater's strength was extremely shocking. This is at least a Class 9 LV3 demonic beast. Lu Ming judged. He could knock away the anteater's spikes, but the others were not so lucky. Screams rose and fell. 12 people from the Star General Hall and the 10 Direction Sword sect were killed in an instant. Blood dyed the lake. Go quickly. The remaining people from the Star General Hall and the 10 Direction Sword sect turned pale with fright. They no longer cared about the spirit dragon fruit and desperately ran to the shore. However, how could 2 powerful demonic beasts that were equivalent to a martial grandmaster realm cultivator escape so easily? A few more corpses were left. In the end, only 8 people from both sides managed to escape to the shore. Once they reached the shore, the anteaters stopped chasing. However, there was an exception, and that was Lu Ming. He did not rush to the shore, but to the spirit dragon fruit. He rushed towards the fruit. The 2 anteaters became even more violent. They screamed and attacked Lu Ming crazily. Giant claws covered with spikes kept clawing at Lu Ming. Swish! Swish! Lu Ming used the high air steps to the extreme. His whole body seemed to be weightless and constantly flashed. One moment on the lake, the next in the air. Although the 2 anteaters tried their best to stop Lu Ming, they still could not stop him. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly jumped out from the water below the spirit dragon fruit. He grabbed the spirit dragon fruit and plucked it off. This figure was actually Shuai-hen. He did not rush to the shore but took the opportunity to dive into the water. With his cultivation method and the power of water, he had a great advantage underwater. Ha ha ha, the spirit dragon fruit is mine. Shuai-hen laughed wildly in his heart and revealed an excited expression. With a thought, he put the spirit dragon fruit into his storage ring. Just as he was about to dive into the water to escape, more than a dozen sharp spear lights stabbed at him. You want to take the spirit dragon fruit? In your dreams. Lu Ming sneered. His body flashed and approached Shuai-hen. Tianyun, damn you! Shuai-hen roared. The 2 anteaters were furious that the spirit dragon fruit had been plucked. They twisted their bodies and shot out dozens of spikes. Shuai-hen was about to dive into the water. However, at this moment, a tail covered with spikes pulled out from below him. It was the tail of an anteater. Tianyun, get lost. Chapter 226. Although Liu Shuai-hen was powerful, he was no match for Lu Ming. The sword of water that he had formed and the sword chi was shattered by Lu Ming's spear. PFFF, Liu Shuai-hen's body was bleeding profusely from several wounds. Liu Shuai-hen screamed and tried his best to avoid the anteater's attack. However, Lu Ming's spear reached him in an instant. Bang! Liu Shuai-hen was sent flying like a rubber ball, leaving a trail of blood on the surface of the lake. He let out a miserable shriek. Half of his body had almost exploded, and one of his arms had disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming chased after Liu Shui Hen with murderous intent in his eyes. No, Tianyun, you can't kill me. I'm the top genius of Shifang sword sect. You won't have a good ending if you kill me. Liu Shui Hen screamed in fear. However, Lu Ming's eyes were firm and unmoved. Liu Shui Hen lost all hope and shouted, Tianyun, let me go. Please let me go. If you want the spirit dragon fruit, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. The spirit dragon fruit will be mine after I kill you. Lu Ming's voice was indifferent. His spear turned into a flash of lightning and shot out. No, Liu Shui Hen screamed, but his throat was pierced by Lu Ming's spear. Liu Shui Hen was dead. Lu Ming's true qi surged out and sucked Liu Shui Hen's storage ring into the Temple of Paragon. Of course, Liu Shui Hen's blood essence was also devoured. At this moment, the two Antitors also charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's figure flashed, dodging the attacks of the two Antitors and running towards the shore. Oh no, run. On the shore, the remaining disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect turned pale with fright and turned to run. Liu Shui Hen was killed. If they stayed, they would be courting death. Run. There were a few disciples of the Hall of General and some of them were even among the top 10 disciples of the Outer Hall. However, they looked at Lu Ming in fear and did not dare to stay. They turned and ran away. They were afraid that Lu Ming would go crazy and kill them too. Lu Ming walked on the waves. No matter how hard the two Antitors tried to attack him, they couldn't even touch a single hair on his body. It's a pity that there are two of them. If there was only one, I would want to fight. Lu Ming muttered. With his current combat strength, he really wanted to fight it. However, there were two of them. Forget it, it would be a waste of time. Lu Ming leaped across the surface of the lake and collected all the dead disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect and the Star Hall students' rings of holding. At the same time, he devoured their blood essence. I don't want to play with you anymore. After plundering everything, Lu Ming let out a long laugh. His figure soared into the sky like a gust of wind, reaching a height of over 100 meters. He stepped on the air and came to the shore. The two Antitors screamed, but in the end, they didn't chase after him. After that, Lu Ming turned around and left. After 50 miles, he stopped and clenched his fist, and a storage ring appeared in his hand. That storage ring belonged to Liu Shui Hen. Lu Ming couldn't wait to look at it. Sure enough, the spirit dragon fruit was lying quietly in the storage ring. With a wave of his hand, the spirit dragon fruit appeared in his hand, emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. Lu Ming took a whiff and felt that the true qi in his body seemed to have sped up. What a strong medicinal effect! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he swallowed the spirit dragon fruit and began to refine it. The spirit dragon fruit's energy was extremely terrifying. Once it entered his mouth, it turned into a huge amount of energy that flowed into his limbs and bones. Lu Ming activated the true dragon of war and refined it with all his might. Lu Ming tried to break through to the 4th level of the true dragon of war with all his might. Originally, breaking through to the 4th level required a total of 6 extremely precious treasures of heaven and earth, as well as dozens of supplementary materials. However, that was no longer necessary. One spirit dragon fruit was enough. As the spirit dragon fruit was refined, the true dragon of war's true qi continued to condense and become stronger. 2 hours later, Lu Ming's body shook and he opened his eyes. He couldn't help but let out a long roar that sounded like a dragon's roar. Fortunately, he was in the Temple of Paragon. If he was outside, his roar would have spread across dozens of miles. I have broken through to the 4th level of the true dragon of war. Lu Ming slowly raised his right hand and gently clenched it. The air in his palm was caught by Lu Ming and crackling sounds could be heard. The density of my true qi is 5 times that of an ordinary martial artist. It's so strong. Feeling the surging true qi in his body, Lu Ming's lips curled into a satisfied smile. Now, let's see what I've gained. Lu Ming took out a pile of storage rings and counted them. There were a total of 42 rings. These were all storage rings left behind by geniuses above the martial master realm. Lu Ming was looking forward to the items inside. He opened them one by one and counted them. Finally, He categorized them and piled them up in front of Lu Ming. There was a small pile of various spiritual herbs, but most of them were not of a high grade. All kinds of spiritual pills were stored in jade bottles, piled up in a huge pile. They were definitely worth a fortune. There were also various ores, materials from demonic beasts, spiritual weapons, etc. Lu Ming categorized them. There were also stacks of banknotes, which added up to a few 100 million taels. This was a huge sum. Even if it was converted into spiritual crystals, it would be worth tens of thousands. What surprised Lu Ming the most were not these, but the spiritual crystals and blood and eggs. There were more than 80,000 spiritual crystals, which filled up several large boxes. There were also 536 blood and eggs. This was much more than what Lu Ming had obtained in the past few days. Ha ha ha, these resources are enough for me to use for a period of time. On the third platform, I will need more spiritual crystals as my cultivation increases. I don't have to worry about it for the time being. Lu Ming laughed heartily. When Lu Ming was at the first level of the martial master realm, he needed 9 spirit crystals to condense a figure with the same combat ability as him on the third platform. However, as Lu Ming's cultivation increased, he needed more spiritual crystals. For the second layer of the martial master realm, he needed 18 spiritual crystals. For the third layer of the martial master realm, he needed 36 spiritual crystals. Now that Lu Ming was in the fifth layer of the martial master realm, he needed 144 spiritual crystals each time. This was too extravagant. One time, for 6 hours, he needed 144 spiritual crystals. As his cultivation increased, he would need even more. How could an ordinary person afford it? In the past few months, Lu Ming had used a few thousand spiritual crystals just to condense the spiritual crystals to fight with him. Without this replenishment, Lu Ming wouldn't have been able to last long with the spiritual crystals he had. It's better to rob others. Resources come quickly. It's much faster than working hard to obtain them. Lu Ming sighed. Rob others. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. That's right, rob. Since the Shifang sword sect wanted to kill him, why should he be polite? Haha, good, let's do it. I'll wait for them at the Blood Ant Nest. Chapter 227. 3 hours later, Lu Ming arrived at a desolate plain. Not even a blade of grass could be seen. In the middle of the plain, there was a large pit with a radius of more than 100 meters. Standing at the edge and looking down, one could see that the pit was filled with caves. Occasionally, one could see a few blood ants crawling in and out. This was the blood ant's nest. Lu Ming sat cross-legged beside the pit, waiting for the others to arrive. Only 3 days had passed. There were still 7 days before the blood ant secret realm closed. Lu Ming cultivated while waiting. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. During these 5 days, not a single person came. Lu Ming was not in a hurry. He knew very well that in the first 7 to 8 days, everyone would be in other places, looking for opportunities and hunting blood ants. They would only rush to the blood ant's nest in the last 2 days to try their luck. In a swamp, corpses of blood ants were lying on the ground. The eggs in their abdomens had all disappeared. Let's go to the blood ant's nest. With a light shout, a young man with a cold and arrogant expression rushed out of the swamp and towards the blood ant's nest. Behind him were more than 10 young men. In a mountain peak, a long howl could be heard. Let's go to the blood ant's nest. Soon after, more than 10 figures leaped towards the blood ant's nest. In a large valley, more than 10 students from the general hall were surrounded by more than 30 disciples from the Decimo Sword faction. Decimo Sword faction, must you be so ruthless? A student from the general hall shouted in despair. Nonsense. I already said that if we meet you from the general hall, we will kill without mercy. Kill. More than 30 young experts from the Decimo Sword faction surrounded and killed more than 10 students from the general hall. There was no suspense at all. Not long after, more than 10 corpses appeared in the valley. Chumph, what bullshit general hall? Just a bunch of mobs. It's a pity that we didn't meet that Tianyun. Otherwise, we could have received Elder Chiu Wuji's reward. A young man with a majestic figure sneered. Senior brother Gao, that Tianyun is lucky. If he were to meet you, he would definitely be trampled under your feet within 10 moves. I wonder which senior brother would be so lucky to meet Tianyun. Yes. However, in my opinion, that Tianyun must have found a place to hide. As long as he hides until the secret realm closes and rushes out at the last moment, he will be safe. It's safe. Even if he didn't die in the blood-and mystic realm, we can still kill him when we get out. At the side, the other disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect flattered him. Senior brother Gao laughed so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. After a while, he said, "All right, that Tianyun is quite capable. Even if I encounter him, it will take me some effort. It will take me at least a dozen moves. Let's set off now and go to the blood ant's nest. There are great opportunities there. Go." Then, they also headed towards the blood ant nest. In a mountain forest, a shocking sword chi swept across. More than a dozen huge blood ants were cut in half by a single sword chi. Among them, there was even a Class 3 LV7 blood ant. A figure appeared. It was young Zitian. His eyes were like lightning and his aura was terrifying. With a wave of his hand, a large string of blood and eggs flew into his hand. After so many days, my cultivation has finally broken through. Now, it's time to go to the blood ant nest. I will empty the nest and obtain a large number of blood refining pills to accumulate blood chi. In the future, I will definitely awaken the king bloodline and trample the 6 heroes of the burning sun under my feet. Young Zitian's eyes were full of arrogance and confidence. Then, his figure flashed and he headed towards the blood ant nest. Beside the blood ant nest, Lu Ming, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly raised his eyebrows and opened his eyes. In the distance, more than a dozen figures were rushing towards him. Finally, someone is here. Lu Ming's face broke into a smile. There were a total of 12 people. At first glance, he could tell that they were disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect. In a short while, the 12 of them approached the blood ant nest. That is Tianyun. When the 12 of them saw Tianyun, their faces changed slightly and they stopped. They did not approach him. Instead, they were a little wary. Among them, there were no strong experts. And they had seen Lu Ming's combat strength. They were no match for him. Tianyun, it turns out that you have been hiding here these days. You really know how to choose a place. No wonder so many disciples of the Decimo sword sect could not find you. A disciple of the Decimo sword sect shouted. Hiding here? Lu Ming said with a faint smile on his face. You can say that. Well, cut the crap. Now, hand over your storage rings. What? You want us to hand over our storage rings? The 12 disciples of the Decimo sword sect were stunned. Nonsense. Don't you understand human language? I'm robbing you. Hand over your storage rings and you'll live. Otherwise, you'll have to stay here forever. Lu Ming said coldly. Tianyun, how dare you? We didn't find trouble with you. You actually want to rob our storage rings. Outrageous. The 12 disciples of the Decimo sword sect were in disbelief. Could it be that Lu Ming was waiting here just to rob them? How dare he do that? Bang! Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with them. He directly attacked. His figure was like a bolt of lightning, instantly arriving above the 12 people. The demon-suppressing spear shook and turned into 12 spear shadows, blasting towards the 12 people. Tianyun, don't think that we are afraid of you. Let's kill him together. The 12 people roared and attacked together. 12 attacks blasted towards Lu Ming. Bang! Bang! There was a roar and the earth exploded. The 12 people screamed. Half of their bodies were blown into the ground. They vomited blood and looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. Although there were no top geniuses among the 12 of them who comprehended force, they were not ordinary martial artists. However, the 12 of them were as weak as babies in the hands of Lu Ming. They could not resist at all. With just one move, they were blasted half to death. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the 5th level of the martial master realm. The true dragon battle art had broken through to the 4th level. Coupled with the demon-suppressing spear's weight of more than 10,000 kilograms, the power of a casual spear strike was astonishing. It was not something that ordinary people could block. What about now? Are you going to hand over your storage rings or not? Lu Ming looked down at the 12 youths of the Decimo Sword sect. Yes, we will hand them over. The 12 youths shouted and took off the storage rings in their hands and handed them to Lu Ming. Lu Ming put them away with a smile and waved his hand, saying, "Get lost." The 12 people struggled out of the ground as if they had been pardoned and staggered into the distance. Lu Ming did not really want to kill all the disciples of the Decimo Sword sect. If necessary, he could kill a small part of them as a deterrent. If he really killed all the disciples of the Decimo Sword sect, the higher-ups of the Decimo Sword sect would probably go crazy and kill him at all costs. This was not what Lu Ming wanted now. After all, he still did not have the strength to fight against the entire Decimo Sword sect. After putting away the 12 storage rings, Lu Ming was about to continue sitting cross-legged. In another direction, 2 figures came over at an extremely fast speed. It's really a case of searching high and low, only to find it by chance. Lu Ming's eyes revealed a cold killing intent. Chapter 228. At this moment, Bai Kai and the green-robed young man were smiling. During this period of time, they had worked together to secretly hunt the blood ants. In addition, both of them were originally the top 10 experts of the Star General Hall, so they had a good harvest. During this period, they even came across an ant nest which they cleared. Moreover, as long as they encountered the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword faction, regardless of their strength, they would stay far away. Therefore, they did not encounter any danger. Haha, the blood ant eggs this time are enough to exchange for a lot of blood refining pills. In the future, we will definitely awaken a powerful second bloodline. At that time, the Star General Hall will belong to the 2 of us. The green-robed young man laughed. That's right. That Tian Yun actually wanted to kill me. Unfortunately, he was too arrogant. He actually dared to challenge all the experts of 10 Directions Sword sect. I reckon that he would have been killed by the disciples of 10 Directions Sword sect. Bai Kai's eyes revealed a sinister look. We're almost at the blood ant nest. Let's observe secretly and wait for the others to make a move. We'll wait for the opportunity to collect some blood ant eggs. Hey, there's someone in front. As the green-robed young man spoke, he was suddenly stunned and looked ahead. There's someone? Bai Kai also looked over. With one glance, his face changed drastically and he almost wet himself. Tianyun, why aren't you dead yet? Bai Kai let out a sharp scream. How can I die when you're not dead yet? Lu Ming stood up and looked coldly at Bai Kai. Go quickly. Bai Kai's body began to tremble. He let out a low growl and ran back. The green-robed young man's reaction was even faster than Bai Kai's. He had already turned around and ran away. Bai Kai, I've said that I will kill you. Do you think you can run away? Lu Ming smiled faintly. He stepped out and chased after Bai Kai like the wind. Ah! Bai Kai screamed. He felt his legs and stomach trembling. His body was cold and he ran forward with all his strength. Wait for me, Bai Kai shouted. The green-robed young man was running in front of him and was faster than him. Why would the green-robed youth care about him? Outside the blood ant mystic realm, he had also targeted Lu Ming. Now, he was scared to death, so how could he stop? Bai Kai felt a chill run down his spine as his scalp went numb. He felt as if the Grim Reaper was approaching him. Escape! I must escape! I can't die! Bai Kai roared. However, Lu Ming was getting closer and closer to him. At this moment, dozens of figures suddenly rushed over from afar. They were all disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect. Bai Kai's eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. His speed seemed to have increased as he ran towards the 10 Directions Sword sect with all his might. He shouted, "Brothers of the 10 Directions Sword sect, Tianyun is here, Tianyun is here, he killed your disciples." Regardless of whether Lu Ming had killed him or not, he had to say that Lu Ming had killed him. Only then would he be able to escape. Tianyun. There were more than 30 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect in front, led by senior brother Gao. At this moment, he was stunned. Then, he revealed a cold murderous intent and shouted, "It's Tianyun, ha ha ha, I finally met him. Immediately, he rushed towards Lu Ming. Haha, senior brother Gao is so lucky. The other disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect laughed and followed. When Lu Ming saw the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect, he was not shocked but happy. He was not in a hurry to chase after Bai Kai and walked forward slowly. Swish, swish. In a flash, the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect surrounded Lu Ming. Huff. Bai Kai was overjoyed and let out a long breath. Kid, although you are from the Star General Hall, since Tianyun wants to kill you, I have to protect you. Stand still. Senior brother Gao glanced at Bai Kai and ordered. Yes, yes. Bai Kai nodded repeatedly, but he was laughing in his heart. Tianyun, the heavens didn't kill me. Now, the one who will die is you. Senior brother Gao stopped looking at Bai Kai and looked at Lu Ming with cold murderous intent. Tianyun, you have been hiding from me for so many days. In the end, you will die in my hands. Remember my name, I am Gao Tianqi. Gao Tianqi, right? Very well, now, I announce that this is a robbery. Hand over your storage rings. Lu Ming curled his lips. What? What did you say? Robbery? Gao Tianqi shouted, thinking that he had heard wrongly. Nonsense, hand over your storage rings, or you will stay here forever. Lu Ming said coldly. Ha ha ha, Tianyun, I think you are crazy. Now, I will wake you up. Gao Tianqi laughed. Dong. Then, he took a step forward and the earth rumbled. A strong and heavy aura was emitted from Gao Tianqui's body, like a mountain standing there. The aura of a mountain. Go to hell. A huge sword appeared in Gao Tianqui's hands. He took big strides and charged toward Lu Ming. It was as though a huge mountain was crashing toward Lu Ming. Tianyun is dead. Some disciples of Shifang Sword sect sneered. But the next moment, they were all stunned. Boom. A scorching and explosive aura rose from Lu Ming's body. The scorching aura rolled out, and the temperature within 100 meters rose rapidly. Boom. Lu Ming struck with his spear. It was like a meteor falling from the sky, crashing into a huge mountain. The mountain shattered with a bang. Gao Tianqi screamed and his body flew out like a rubber ball. The whole place suddenly quieted down. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. Senior brother Gao lost. He was defeated in one move. How is this possible? The disciples of Shifang Sword sect said in a daze. Not far away, Bai Kai's pupils shrank sharply, and his face was full of disbelief. He roared in his heart, the aura of fire, impossible, impossible. He found it hard to accept. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward, and the aura on his body burst out, pressing toward the disciples of Shifang Sword sect. Oh no, let's attack together. The disciples of Shifang Sword sect shouted. Landslide. Lu Ming whispered, and the demon-suppressing spear shone, condensing a giant spear as thick as a water tank and as long as 100 meters. The giant spear pressed down, and a terrifying shock wave blasted downward and exploded in all directions. Screams and roars sounded. The disciples of Shifang Sword sect were like rubber balls, and they were sent flying and fell everywhere. Only 2 people were still standing there. Bai Kai and the young man in green robe. At this time, Bai Kai's face was pale, and his body was trembling non-stop. His lips were trembling, and his eyes were full of horror. How can he be so strong? How can he be so strong? He kept muttering under his breath. It was simply unbelievable. Originally, when he met the disciples of Shifang Sword sect, he was ecstatic and thought that he was saved. He thought that Lu Ming was dead for sure and couldn't kill him at all. However, he never dreamed that more than 30 disciples of Shifang Sword sect, including a peerless genius who comprehended aura, would be defeated by Lu Ming in a few moves. How could this be? Now, let's see who can save you. Lu Ming walked toward Bai Kai step by step with a teasing smile on his face. No, don't kill me, Bai Kai shouted, unable to summon the courage to resist. Don't kill you. Haha, you're really naive. Tell me, if you can give me a reason not to kill you, I won't kill you. Chapter 229. Bai Kai could only say the word I and could not continue. Previously, outside the blood and secret realm, He had repeatedly targeted Lu Ming and purposely pushed the blame to Lu Ming for the 10 Direction Sword faction's intention to kill the Star General Hall's disciples. This caused the Star General Hall's disciples to reveal the truth to Lu Ming. Just now, he had instigated the 10 Direction Sword faction disciples to kill Lu Ming. Was there a reason why Lu Ming did not kill him? He could not think of any reason. Seems like there isn't. Then die. Lu Ming said coldly. No, don't kill me. Suddenly, Bai Kai knelt down and cried out, Tianyun, please spare my dog life. I will do whatever you want me to do in the future. I will be your slave from now on. I will do whatever you want me to do. Be my slave? Are you worthy? Lu Ming said indifferently. Boom. A powerful aura burst out from his body and pressed down on Bai Kai and the green-robed youth. Bai Kai felt as though a mountain was pressing down on him and it became difficult for him to breathe. It's not that easy to kill me. At this moment, the green-robed youth roared and charged at Lu Ming with all his strength. He wanted to trade his life for a chance of survival. But how was that possible? Swoosh. The dazzling spear pierced through the air and pierced through the green-robed youth's forehead. Blood splattered everywhere and red and white substances splattered all over Bai Kai's face. Bai Kai screamed in horror. At this moment, he felt hopeless and helpless. The green-robed youth was stronger than him, but he was killed by Lu Ming in one move. He did not even have the courage to resist. Don't kill me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have offended you. I was wrong. Bai Kai screamed hysterically. At this moment, he was extremely regretful. He regretted offending Lu Ming. Lu Ming was not someone he could afford to offend. It's all Bai Long's fault. It's all his fault. Why did he have to offend this demon? It's all his fault. Bai Kai screamed in his heart. He blamed everything on Bai Long. If it wasn't for Bai Long, how would he have offended Lu Ming? You're really a piece of trash. You've dirtied my hands. Lu Ming muttered. Yes, killing me will dirty your hands. Yes, you're right. Bai Kai seemed to have grasped the last life-saving straw and shouted loudly. However, I won't feel at ease if I don't kill you. Lu Ming whispered again. There was a bone-chilling coldness in his voice. Don't. Just as Bai Kai was about to shout, a spear light flashed and disappeared, sinking into Bai Kai's glabella. Bai Kai was dead. Now, it's time for you to hand over your storage rings, right? Lu Ming glanced at the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect. The disciples of Decimo Sword Sect were horrified. They had just witnessed Lu Ming's terrifying combat strength and ruthless means. However, they were disciples of Decimo Sword Sect. They were usually high and mighty. Now, they had to hand over their storage rings. This was simply a great humiliation. Tianyun, Decimo Sword Sect will not let you go if you do this. Someone shouted. It seems that you don't want to hand it over. Then I'll take it myself. Lu Ming sneered. His figure flickered like a ghost. The disciples of Decimo Sword Sect had been seriously injured by Lu Ming just now. They had no strength to resist and their storage rings were taken by Lu Ming. At the same time, Lu Ming grabbed and threw the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect one by one. They fell heavily to the ground. Then, the second one was stacked higher and higher like a human pyramid. The last one was Gao Tianqi. Lu Minute took off his storage ring and kicked him out. Gao Tianqi flew high into the air, stacking on top of more than 30 Shifang Sword Sect disciples. More than 30 disciples of Decimo Sword Sect were stacked more than 10 meters high. Lu Ming moved and appeared at the highest point. He stepped on Gao Tianqui's body and waited. More than 30 disciples of Decimo Sword Sect roared, but it was no use. After a while, Lu Ming raised his head and looked into the distance. Finally, they're here. Lu Ming whispered. In the distance, many figures were leaping and coming here at an extremely fast speed. There were more than 200 people. Decimo Sword Sect hurried the remaining people of Star Hall to this place. In the blood ant nest. The silhouette flickered, and soon, he arrived in the vicinity. Tianyun, that's Tianyun. That's our senior brothers of Decimo Sword Sect. Damn it, how could they be defeated by Tianyun? Damn it, Tianyun actually did this to them. He deserves to die. There were close to 200 disciples of the Shifang sword sect who witnessed this scene. Their eyes turned red and they exuded a cold, murderous intent. All of them stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent. In another direction, more than 20 disciples of Star General Hall were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This Tianyun is too domineering, isn't he? Domineering, I think is courting death. We'd better stay away from him. The disciples of Star General Hall discussed animatedly. Brother Tianyun. Myongcheng was also among them. At this moment, he shouted and rushed toward Lu Ming. Brother Ming, stay away from me and watch the show. Lu Ming smiled at Myongcheng and waved his hand. Myongcheng couldn't help but stop. It seemed that Lu Ming's words had some kind of magical power that he couldn't refuse. Even he didn't realize it. Tianyun, why aren't you moving your smelly feet? Let go of my 10 Directions Sword Faction's senior brothers. Speak, what despicable means did you use to sneak attack the experts of Decimo Sword Sect? Damn it, your behavior will not be enough even if you die 10,000 times. Do you know that? The disciples of Decimo Sword Sect continued to shout. However, Lu Ming couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. After shouting for a while, he slowly stopped. I asked them to hand over their storage rings, but they refused. That's why they ended up like this. Now, hand over your storage rings. Otherwise, you'll also end up like them. At this moment, Lu Ming's indifferent voice spread throughout the place. What? The disciples of Decimo Sword Sect were stunned. The disciples of Star General Hall were also stunned. Tianyun was robbing the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect. Crazy, crazy, Tianyun is crazy. Everyone shouted in their hearts. Tianyun actually wanted to rob nearly 200 people of Decimo Sword Sect alone. If he wasn't crazy, what was? Tianyun, it seems that you've really gone crazy after hiding for a few days. But no matter what, you're dead today. Among the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect, a tall and thin figure walked out, exuding a powerful aura. Lu Ming recognized that this person was one of the 6 disciples of Decimo Sword Sect who had comprehended the Force. Whoosh, whoosh. In a flash, another 2 young men walked out. Their aura was not weaker than that of the tall and thin young man. The 2 of them had also comprehended the Force. The 3 of them stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent, ready to attack at any time. Don't be careless. This person's battle strength is not to be underestimated. You'd better join forces to kill him. Jiao Tianqi, who was under Lu Ming's feet, shouted. The expressions of the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect changed. They originally thought that Lu Ming had used some despicable means to injure Jiao Tianqi and the others, but now it seemed that things were not that simple. Was Lu Ming really that strong? Chapter 230. Tianyun is despicable and shameless. He deserves to die. Elder Qiu Wuji wants to kill him. Let's attack together and kill him. The thin and tall youth waved his hand and shouted. Okay, let's attack together. The other disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect roared. Nearly 200 people unsheathed their swords and terrifying sword chi gathered together, stirring up the wind and clouds. The ground emitted a sizzling sound as sword marks appeared. In the distance, the faces of the people of the Star General Hall changed. The aura of nearly 200 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect was too shocking. Even a 9th-level martial master expert would have to retreat. Tianyun is too arrogant. He has to reap what he sowed. Someone in the Star General Hall said. Brother Tianyun. Myongcheng roared, extremely worried. Ha ha ha, if you want to attack, then attack. So much nonsense. Let me see if the 10 Directions Sword Sect is all trash. Lu Ming laughed. You're courting death. Attack, kill him. The disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect roared. Whoosh, whoosh. All of a sudden, more than 50 sword auras soared into the sky, slashing violently toward Lu Ming with terrifying power. More than 50 sword chi completely enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes were calm as the corner of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Whoosh. Lu Ming's figure flashed and his body emitted a light and swift aura. He took a step in the air and suddenly, a string of afterimages appeared in the air. No one could tell which was real and which was fake. More than 50 sword chi slashed at the afterimages. None of them hit the real Lu Ming. Wind force, it's the wind force. Someone from the 10 Direction Sword sect shouted. So he has comprehended the wind force. No wonder he's so arrogant. Everyone, attack together and block all his escape routes. Even if he has comprehended the wind force, he will still die. The thin and tall youth roared. However, no one noticed that the 30 people who were stacked up by Lu Ming had their eyes wide open in shock. Wind force. Just now, Lu Ming attacked them, he clearly used the power of fire. Now, he actually used the power of wind. Could it be that he had comprehended 2 types of force? They found it inconceivable. A martial Grand Master at such a young age actually comprehended 2 forces. What kind of demonic genius was this? Not good. He has not only comprehended the force of wind, but also the force of fire. Gao Tianqi roared. What? The other disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect were all stunned. He even comprehended the power of fire. How could this be? Had Gao Tianqi been beaten silly? In the martial Grand Master realm, being able to comprehend a force was already a rare genius. They were 1 in 10,000, extremely rare. As for comprehending 2 potentials, how could this be? There aren't many martial ancestor realm martial artists who have comprehended 2 forces, right? Gao Tianqi must have been beaten silly, they were sure. However, in the next moment, they felt that they were dumbfounded. Boom. At this time, a terrifying fluctuation erupted from Lu Ming's body like a volcanic eruption. This was another type of power, the power of fire. The eyes of the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect almost popped out, and they were tongue-tied. Lu Ming really comprehended 2 forces. How could this be? Kill. At this time, Lu Ming roared like thunder. His body moved, and he rushed towards the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect. With the combination of the force of wind and fire, his combat strength skyrocketed. Let's attack together. Even if he has comprehended 2 forces, what can he do? After all, he's only 1 person. If we attack together, we can definitely kill him. Let's attack together. Boom. Boom. Sword chi rose one after another. There were a total of 200 sword chi, which was extremely terrifying. Landslide. Lu Ming roared, holding the spear with both hands, and a huge spear light that was 100 meters long formed. This spear seemed to be real, just like a real long spear. Around the spear light, there were blazing flames and strong winds. The wind helped the fire, causing the flames to burn more vigorously, like a flaming spear. Boom. The huge spear radiance blasted down, containing a terrifying vibrating will. Kill. Kill. Nearly 200 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect roared, and the dazzling sword chi slashed towards Lu Ming. When the spear light and the sword chi collided, there was a violent explosion. Terrifying vibrations rippled outwards in circles, forming a strong gale. The ground seemed to have been plowed, and deep gullies appeared, extending hundreds of meters away. At the center of the spear light and the sword chi, there was a deep pit that was more than 10 meters deep and more than 30 meters wide. How is Tianyun? He should have been killed, right? In the distance, the people of the Star General Hall looked at the scene filled with smoke and dust and guessed. But when the smoke and dust dissipated, they were stunned. Lu Ming stood proudly with a long spear in his hand. His body emitted a strong battle intent, and he stood straight. What happened? There was not even a trace of a wound. On the other hand, some of the people of the 10 Directions Sword sect, such as the 3rd and 4th level martial master martial artists, had pale faces, and blood flowed out of the corners of their mouths. Not only did Lu Ming not die, but he also had the upper hand. How was this possible? With nearly 200 people working together, even a 9th level martial master martial artist would have to retreat. Lu Ming actually blocked them and even had the upper hand. This was like a fantasy story. The nearly 200 people of the 10 Directions Sword sect all stared in disbelief. The geniuses of the 10 Directions Sword sect are only SOSO. Today, leave your storage rings, or die. Swish. Lu Ming took a step forward and rushed towards the people of the 10 Directions sword sect. Join hands, don't split up. Someone shouted. But it was too late. Lu Ming was like a tiger in a pack of wolves, rushing into the disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect. With a sweep of his long spear, dozens of people were swept away and fell to the ground, blood spurting out. They could not resist Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming's current combat strength was too strong. With the cultivation of a 5th-level martial master, the 4th level of the true dragon battle art, and the force of wind and fire had reached the initial success, his combat strength was terrifying. These young men, who were at the peak of the 6th-level martial master, were no match for Lu Ming at all. Even those young men who had comprehended the force were the same. Bang! Bang! In a few breaths, a large number of disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect fell to the ground. There were more than 100 of them. The people of the Star Commandant Hall were dumbfounded. Some of them rubbed their eyes hard, thinking that they were dreaming. This is a monster, a monster. Myongcheng was also stunned and roared in his heart. He thought that he had overestimated Lu Ming as much as possible, but in the end, he realized that he had underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming's strength was far beyond his imagination. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and swung it. A large number of disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect fell to the ground with their bones broken. Including a genius who had comprehended the force, he could not escape the fate of having his bones broken. Run! The other disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect shouted, scared out of their wits. There was no way to resist at all. Their strength was not on the same level at all. Stop! At this moment, a loud roar was heard. A figure stepped on the void and rushed over at an extremely fast speed. It's senior brother Yang Zitian. Senior brother Yang Zitian is here. We are saved. Chapter 231. The disciples of the Shifang sword sect were overjoyed because Yang Zitian had arrived. However, Lu Ming just glanced at them casually and continued to attack. Bang! Bang! One by one, the disciples of the Shifang sword sect were sent flying. When Yang Zitian arrived, there were only a few who could stand. Yang Zitian looked around with an extremely gloomy face, then looked at Lu Ming and said coldly, I told you to stop, didn't you hear me? I heard you, but who do you think you are? Do you think I should stop just because you asked me to? Lu Ming glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. Yang Zitian froze, and his face became even more gloomy. Lu Ming actually dared to ask who he was. Yang Zitian was so angry that he laughed and said, Tianyun, I said before that you're my prey. At that time, I was just casually saying it, but now, you're dead. There's no way you can survive. Do you people of the Shifang sword sect have the same trick? You said I'm dead as soon as we met, but you're all lying here. You'll be the same soon. Lu Ming sneered. Don't compare me to these trash. Yang Zitian said. The other disciples of the Shifang sword sect had ugly expressions. Yang Zitian said they were trash in public, so of course, they felt uncomfortable. In my eyes, you're similar to them. You're all trash. Lu Ming smiled faintly. How dare you? Yang Zitian shouted angrily, and his killing intent was extremely cold. He, Yang Zitian, had been a genius since he was born. Along the way, he had defeated his peers and was almost invincible. Now, Lu Ming actually said he was trash, which was a great humiliation. He must kill Lu Ming. Tianyun, you've succeeded. You've successfully angered me. Today, I'll break all the bones in your body and feed you to the blood ants. Yang Zitian roared, and the aura on his body burst out. Moreover, it was constantly improving. Soon, he broke through the limit of the peak 6th-level Martial Master Realm and entered the 7th-level Martial Master Realm. 7th layer Martial Grandmaster. Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. 7th level Martial Master. Senior brother Yang Zitian has broken through to the 7th level Martial Master. Tianyun is dead for sure. The disciples of the 10 Directions sword faction cried out in ecstasy. Yang Zitian was a peerless genius to begin with, suppressing his peers. With such a breakthrough in cultivation, his battle prowess would also skyrocket. Senior brother Yang Zitian, Don't kill Tianyun so easily. I want to torture him. Not bad. The disciples of the 10 Directions sword faction shouted one after another. Tianyun, I saw it just now. You actually comprehended 2 types of force. It's indeed shocking. But let me tell you, force is about quality, not quantity. Moreover, no matter how much force you have, in front of absolute power, it will collapse. Yang Zitian's eyes were like lightning, and his aura was like a tiger. He took a step forward, and the earth rumbled. You talk too much nonsense. You're just looking for excuses for your incompetence. Lu Ming scolded. I'm incompetent. Ha ha ha, you're courting death. Yang Zitian roared, and the battle sword on his back was unsheathed, and a scorching aura burst out. Force, it was actually the force of fire. I'll show you the true power of fire. Yang Zitian roared, and his figure quickly rushed toward Lu Ming, slashing out with his sword. The force of fire wrapped around the sword chi, and an astonishing power erupted. So, it's the force of fire, Lu Ming muttered. Your force is only superficial, but mine is already at the force of small accomplishment. This is the essence. Yang Zitian roared, and his voice was filled with contempt. Just now, Lu Ming's force didn't erupt with full force. He thought that although Lu Ming had comprehended 2 types of force, it was only superficial. How could Lu Ming fight against him? A frog at the bottom of a well. Lu Ming smiled faintly. What? Yang Zitian was stunned, but in the next moment, his face changed wildly. This was because Lu Ming's aura was rising uncontrollably. First was the force of fire. It instantly reached the force of small accomplishment, and it was still rising. In the end, although it didn't reach the major accomplishment, it was still stronger than Yang Zitian's force. Boom! A spear light shot out and collided with Yang Zitian's sword chi, and both dissipated. How is this possible? How can your force of fire be so strong? What's going on? Yang Zitian roared, he couldn't believe it. Just now, he was still looking down on Lu Ming, saying that Lu Ming had a lot of force but was not proficient. But immediately, he realized that not only did Lu Ming have a lot of force, he was even more proficient than him. It was like he was slapping himself in the face. This is impossible. Then let's continue. Boom. Lu Ming's force rose again. This time, it was the force of wind. All the way up, it was like a hurricane sweeping the sky. In the end, Lu Ming's force of wind also reached the force of small accomplishment. Force of wind has reached the force of small accomplishment. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. You're cheating, you're cheating. How can you comprehend 2 types of force to the force of small accomplishment? Yang Zitian no longer had a trace of calmness and shouted hysterically. Even his facial features were distorted. He comprehended force at the 9th level of the martial master realm, which was rare in the Shifang sword sect. And at the 6th level of the martial master realm, he cultivated the force of fire to the small accomplishment, which was even rarer. He had always been incomparably arrogant, taking the 6 heroes of the burning sun as his goal and not putting others in his eyes. But now, he suddenly realized that Lu Ming's talent was stronger than his by a lot, which made it hard for him to accept. Die, die, this Tianyun must die. In this world, there can't be a genius who surpasses me. Yang Zitian roared in his heart. Kill. Without hesitation, his bloodline erupted and he attacked Lu Ming with all his strength. Die. The sword chi was shocking and incomparably hot. Yang Zitian was definitely a peerless genius. His battle strength was extremely terrifying. At this moment, he attacked with all his strength, his power was shocking. Even a martial artist of the 8th level of the martial master realm would be killed in one move. A martial artist of the 9th level of the martial master realm would also have to retreat. However, he met Lu Ming. The force of wind and fire combined, turning into a blazing flame spear light that soared into the sky. Boom! Lu Ming and Yang Zitian collided, turning into a terrifying and scorching shockwave that swept in all directions. Not good, retreat. The disciples of the Decimo Sword faction roared and frantically retreated without caring about their injuries. The people of the Hall of General in the distance were also shocked and frantically retreated. Boom! The huge shockwave rushed to the ground, blasting a deep hole in the ground. Kill! Kill! Two loud roars sounded as the two figures collided again. Far away, the people of the two sides looked on in shock. They saw two figures emitting scorching auras colliding in the air and on the ground, like two ancient beasts. Boom! Boom! After more than 10 collisions, more than 10 large holes appeared on the ground. It was as if doomsday had arrived. Fortunately, they had been some distance away from the blood-ant nest before the battle. Otherwise, the blood-ant nest would have collapsed. Even so, the blood-ant nest was still disturbed and many blood ants crawled out. Boom! Another violent explosion rang out, and a figure rapidly retreated, being sent flying. It was young Zetian. At this moment, he was in a very sorry state. His body was covered in blood and his hair was disheveled. He was no match for Lu Ming. Tianyun, I want you dead. I want to kill you. I want to kill your friends and your family. Chapter 232. Young Zetian roared crazily, his killing intent seeping out. He was actually injured by Lu Ming, who came from the Star General Hall and was regarded by others as a motley crew. He couldn't accept such a great humiliation. Overflowing heavenly sword. Young Zetian roared, his aura reaching its peak. A ray of sword light, as if it came from the heavens, appeared out of nowhere. It was incomparably brilliant, floating above young Zetian's head. A terrifying boundless sword chi rippled out. The ground under young Zetian's feet was stirred up by the sword chi, undulating like water waves. Earth-class sword art. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that this was an Earth-class sword art. Earth-class sword art, overflowing heavenly sword. Senior brother young Zetian actually mastered the overflowing heavenly sword. What? This is an Earth-class sword art, too terrifying. Tianyun is finished. Once the Earth-class sword art is used, he's dead for sure. Senior brother young Zetian is too powerful. This is an Earth-class sword art. The 10 Direction Sword Sect's disciples discussed excitedly. Some even laughed. They felt that Lu Ming was dead for sure. They could finally vent their anger. As for the Star General Hall's disciples, their faces were filled with shock and dismay. The 10 Direction Sword Sect's disciples were too strong. They couldn't compete with them at all. The number 1 genius of the outer hall of the Star General Hall had just comprehended force. Compared to young Zetian, the difference was too great. Brother Tianyun. Myongcheng stared ahead, his eyes filled with worry. Tianyun, now do you know the difference between us? Tremble in front of me, ha ha ha. Young Zetian laughed crazily. In his mind, Lu Ming would definitely be shocked when he saw him execute the Earth-class sword art, then shock, fear, and finally despair. Thinking of this, he felt very good. Unfortunately, he was only halfway through his enjoyment when he could no longer enjoy himself. Because Lu Ming's expression was calm, indifferent, and even a little disdainful. Yes, disdain. Young Zetian's anger soared to the sky. His face began to distort as he roared, Tianyun, what's with your expression? What's with your expression? Hee hee. Lu Ming smiled faintly, but the murderous intent in his eyes grew thicker and thicker. Ah, go to hell. Sword of heaven, kill. Young Zetian roared. With a wave of his sword, the sword light floating above his head violently slashed towards Lu Ming. Before the sword arrived, the terrifying sword intent had already enveloped Lu Ming. Earth-grade martial skills, do you think you are the only one who knows them? Lu Ming whispered. True Qi burst out, and with one hand facing the sky, he waved his palm. Human Dao palm. Wang. The space seemed to tremble for a moment. Then, a huge palm print appeared in the air. The palm print was at least 10 meters in size. Its shape was no different from a human palm, except that it was slightly blurry. However, the strength of its might was extremely shocking. It was as if there was a human Dao king patrolling the sky. An extremely powerful pressure pressed down on everyone. Earth-grade martial skill, another Earth-grade martial skill? How is this possible? How is this possible? The disciples of the Shifang sword faction roared. They could not believe that all this was real. They wished that they were dreaming. Ha ha ha, Tianyun, I knew it. This guy is simply a freak. Myongcheng laughed. How is this possible? How can you also cultivate an Earth-grade martial skill? Ah, break. Yang Zitian roared in disbelief. He controlled the sword light and slashed at the human Dao palm. Boom. The palm print and the sword light collided. Heaven and earth shook violently. Then, there was a sudden explosion where the palm print and the sword light met. Rumble. The earth shook. Under the intersection of the palm print and the sword light, a huge pit that was 100 meters in length and width and more than 20 meters in depth was blasted open. Countless gravel splattered everywhere. Retreat, be careful. The people of the Shifang Sword faction and Star General Hall were in chaos. They quickly retreated and waved their weapons to block. They retreated for 1,000 meters before stopping. Bang! In the sky, the palm print shone brightly while the sword light dimmed rapidly. In the end, the sword light exploded. A figure screamed and flew back like a cannonball. He crashed heavily on the ground, creating a huge pit. It was Yang Zitian. He had been defeated and was lying in the huge pit, coughing up blood. Hiss! The sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air could be heard. Lu Ming walked in the air. His black hair fluttered in the wind. His aura was demonic and his body emitted a cold, murderous intent. Tianyun, what are you trying to do? Don't mess around. Feeling the murderous intent from Lu Ming, Yang Zitian shouted in horror. I hate it when people threaten me with my family. Since you did that, your ending is already decided. Lu Ming said in a cold voice. He walked towards Yang Zitian step by step. Don't you dare. I'm a peerless genius of the Shifang Sword faction. I'll be the pillar of the Shifang Sword faction in the future. I'm someone who can become an overlord. If you kill me, the experts of the Shifang Sword faction won't let you go. Yang Zitian struggled with all his might and roared. That's my business. Why do you have to worry about it? Lu Ming was unmoved. His murderous intent became even colder. Yang Zitian was scared. He was really scared. He could see that Lu Ming really wanted to kill him. No, you can't kill me. You're a lunatic. You're a lunatic. Yang Zitian shouted and rushed out of the pit, trying to escape. Human Dao. Lu Ming said softly and waved his palm. In the sky, a huge palm print was formed and blasted towards Yang Zitian. No, Yang Zitian roared. He frantically tried to resist, but it was to no avail. Boom. The palm print blasted down and directly blasted Yang Zitian into the ground. There was another big pit on the ground. The palm print dissipated, leaving only a pile of meat paste in the big pit. Yang Zitian was smashed into pieces by the palm. Yang Zitian is dead. He's been killed. The disciples of the Shifang Sword faction widened their eyes in shock and stared at him. After a while, someone reacted and shouted, Go quickly. This Tianyun is a lunatic. Swish. Lu Ming's figure was like the wind. He stepped on the void and appeared above everyone's head in a few steps. Who dares to run? Yang Zitian will be the one who ends up. Lu Ming's cold voice spread throughout the place. The disciples of the Shifang Sword faction couldn't help but stop and look at Lu Ming in fear. Could it be that Lu Ming wanted to kill them too? Tianyun, what are you trying to do? If you kill so many of us, the higher-ups of the Shifang Sword faction will definitely go crazy and do their best to kill you. At that time, no one will be able to save you. Someone from the Shifang Sword faction shouted. Who said I'm going to kill you? I just want to rob you. All right, now, hand over your storage rings. Lu Ming said indifferently. What? Rob? The people of the Shifang Sword faction were stunned. Why? If you don't want to hand them over, I don't mind killing you. Lu Ming's eyes were full of killing intent. The expressions of the people of the Shifang Sword faction changed drastically. I'll hand them over. Chapter 233. What a joke. Lu Ming was simply a lunatic. He even dared to kill Yang Zitian, let alone them. If they were killed because of this, it would not be worth it. Someone took off his storage ring and threw it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand and put it away with his true energy. Since someone took the lead, the others could only take off their storage rings and hand them to Lu Ming. However, There were also some who were reluctant to do so. They gritted their teeth and almost cried. This storage ring could be said to contain all the wealth he had accumulated. Who would be willing to hand it over like this? However, when Lu Ming looked at them, they were shocked. They gritted their teeth and took off their storage rings and handed them to Lu Ming with trembling hands. 185, 186. Lu Ming kept counting as he took the rings. He was so happy that he could barely open his eyes. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect were crying and gritting their teeth so hard that their teeth were about to break. The people of the Star General Hall were dumbfounded by this scene. Soon, when the last disciple of the Decimo Sword sect handed the storage ring to Lu Ming put it away with satisfaction. "All right, you can get lost now. This blood ant nest is mine. I'll kill anyone who doesn't get lost," Lu Ming said coldly. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect turned and ran as if they had been pardoned. In the blink of an eye, there was no one left. In the distance, countless disciples of the Decimo Sword sect shouted, "Quick, let's find a place to heal and then kill the blood ants. Otherwise, we'll lose everything. Damn it, my storage ring. Tianyun, damn Tianyun. I'll kill him when we get out of the blood ant secret realm." Many disciples of the Decimo Sword sect ran off into the distance, filled with resentment. They made use of the time to treat their injuries and hunt down the blood ants. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at the people of the Star General Hall. "Brother Myongcheng, why don't you explore the blood ant nest with me?" Lu Ming said with a smile. "I couldn't ask for more." Myongcheng was delighted. "As for the rest of you, scram immediately." Subsequently, Lu Ming looked at the other Star General Hall students. These people were not good people. Just now, they just wanted to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. "Tianyun, we're both from the Star General Hall, you can't be so overbearing, right? One person monopolizes the entire blood ant nest," a Star General Hall student said with an ugly expression. "Nonsense, so what if I'm that overbearing? If you're not convinced, let's exchange 2 moves." Lu Ming berated. The young man was stunned. What a joke, exchanging a few moves with Lu Ming, wasn't that courting death? "Let's go." The others had no choice but to turn around and leave. Soon, only Lu Ming and Myongcheng were left in this place. "Brother Ming, let's go." Lu Ming turned around and strode forward. When they arrived at the edge of the blood ant's nest, they realized that there were hundreds of blood ants crawling around. Obviously, the battle earlier was too shocking and had completely alarmed the blood ants. When Lu Ming and Myongcheng walked over, the blood ants let out strange cries and pounced on the 2 of them. However, the highest level of these blood ants was only class 3 LV6. How could they be a match for Lu Ming? Soon, the ground was littered with blood ant corpses. Then, the 2 of them charged into the blood ant nest. In the blood ant nest, the tunnels were intertwined and extended in all directions. The 2 of them did not need to identify the direction and charged forward casually. They killed as long as they saw blood ants. An hour later, Lu Ming had killed more than 200 blood ants and harvested more than 1,000 blood ant eggs. On the other hand, Ming Cheng's harvest was not small either. He had about 200 of them. The 2 of them went around in circles and did not know how far they had gone. Suddenly, their eyes widened and a huge underground cave appeared in front of them. Once they arrived at the cave, the 2 of them were stunned. Blood ant eggs. A large number of blood ant eggs were piled up in the cave. Each of them was red and translucent, like garbage piled up in the cave. These were all shed by the blood ants. The blood ant eggs were not the eggs of the blood ants. They were energy crystals that contained powerful blood essence. "How many blood ant eggs are there?" Myongcheng was dumbfounded. "What? There are at least tens of thousands of them?" Lu Ming was also in a daze. Their eyes flashed with a blazing light. Squeak, squeak, squeak. At this moment, a sharp cry was heard. The 2 of them then realized that there was a huge creature in the middle of the cave. It was a gigantic blood ant. It was at least 10 meters tall as it lay there. Its abdomen was huge and there were strings of blood and eggs hanging from it. At a glance, there were at least a few hundred of them. Mother ant. This was the mother ant of the blood ant. The two of them were attracted by the countless blood ant eggs and almost forgot about the mother ant's existence. The mother ant's huge eyes stared at the two of them and let out a sharp cry. Swoosh! At the side of the cave, there was a violent sound of something breaking through the air. A strong and sharp force attacked Lu Ming. It was a blood ant, but it was as huge as a water buffalo. Its body was fiery red and translucent like red jade. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming raised his spear and swept it across. Boom! With a loud bang, the blood ant was repelled. However, Lu Ming felt his body go numb and he took a few steps back. What a powerful ability! This is a Class 9 LV3 blood ant. Lu Ming was slightly surprised. Whoosh! At this moment, another blood ant rushed out from another cave on the other side of the cave. This blood ant was not smaller than the previous one and it emitted a powerful aura. Brother Ming, you should leave first. Lu Ming said. Okay. Myongcheng nodded without hesitation, then turned around and ran toward the passage behind him. Facing a Class 9 LV3 blood ant, he knew that he had no power to fight back. If he stayed, he would only be a burden to Lu Ming. Now, let's have a good fight. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The demon banishing spear trembled and let out a buzzing sound. He rushed out and attacked the blood ant. Boom! The demon banishing spear blasted out with the power of wind and fire. Bam! The long spear and the blood ant's claws collided. There was a violent explosion and a loud rumbling sound in the cave. After the first blood ant was repelled, the next one rushed forward. Two Class 9 LV3 blood ants joined forces and attacked Lu Ming crazily. Lu Ming raised his cultivation to the maximum and used the power of wind and fire to fight against the two blood ants. Squeak, 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 the mother ant shrieked. Dragging its huge body, it dashed toward Lu Ming. Its long and sharp claws were like knives, slashing toward Lu Ming. Its power was shocking. It was not inferior to that of the two blood ants. Obviously, the mother ant also had the combat strength of a Class 9 LV3. Three Class 9 LV3 blood ants attacked Lu Ming at the same time, which made Lu Ming feel great pressure. Ancient shield. With a thought, 3 ancient shields appeared around Lu Ming's body. After cultivating for 2 months in the Divine Wind Valley, the ancient shield technique had broken through to the 3rd level and could condense 3 ancient shields. Clang. Chapter 234. The 3 ancient shields could be controlled at will, blocking Lu Ming's entire body. With the ancient shields protecting his body, Lu Ming was in an invincible position. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. He stared at one of the blood ants and launched a torrential attack on it. Myongcheng, who was running in the blood ant nest, smiled bitterly when he heard the deafening roar behind him. Brother Tianyun is really monstrous. I have to get out quickly. Otherwise, this blood ant nest will collapse. Myongcheng ran with all his might. In the blood ant nest, Lu Ming became more and more courageous as he fought. He did not have to worry about himself at all. He attacked with all his might and suppressed a blood ant. Poochie. The demon-suppressing spear pierced the blood ant's hard shell and blasted a big hole. What a hard shell. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. If he did not attack with the power of wind and fire, he would not be able to break through the blood ant's defense. Martial artists below the 9th realm of the martial grandmaster realm would not be able to break through the blood ant's defense. It was no wonder that so many blood ant eggs had been piled up in the blood ant nest for so many years without being taken away. Those who entered were all martial artists below the 7th realm of the martial grandmaster realm. Who could be a match for these blood ants? Even a genius like Yang Zitian, who had broken through to the 7th realm of the martial grandmaster realm, would not be a match for these blood ants. At most, he would be able to plunder some and then escape. Whoosh! Lu Ming stabbed his spear again. It pierced through the blood ant's wound and went all the way to the hilt. The blood ant screamed and struggled frantically. Die! Lu Ming's spear shook and powerful true energy burst out. It rushed into the blood ant's body and smashed its organs into pieces. Finally, he killed a blood ant. Without any delay, Lu Ming killed another one. A few minutes later. Bang! As the last mother ant fell to the ground, The 3 powerful blood ants were all killed by Lu Ming. Collect. Subsequently, Lu Ming began to plunder without restraint. Rays of light enveloped the blood ant eggs in the cave as he collected them into his storage ring. Lu Ming didn't count them, so he didn't know how many he had collected. 2 minutes later, all the blood ant eggs in the cave had been collected. Haha, we're rich. Lu Ming couldn't help but grin. Then, he controlled his bloodline and devoured the blood essence of the 3 blood ants. With a thought, Lu Ming appeared in the Temple of Paragon and started to refine the essence blood. This refinement took more than a day. The essence blood of the 3 blood ants was completely refined. Lu Ming's cultivation skyrocketed from the 5th level of the Martial Master Realm to the early 6th level of the Martial Master Realm. The amount of energy required to cultivate now is indeed much more terrifying. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. This was the essence blood of 3 Class 9 blood ants, which was 4 levels higher than Lu Ming's. Moreover, the essence blood and blood chi of the blood ants were twice as rich as that of ordinary demonic beasts. 3 Class 9 blood ants were only enough to raise Lu Ming's cultivation by 1 level. This showed that the amount of energy required by Lu Ming was terrifying. Now that I'm in the 6th level of the Martial Master Realm, I'll need at least 20 Class 9 blood ants to level up. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Moreover, his bloodline had yet to level up. He didn't know how much essence blood he would need to level up to the 7th level. I can't let go of the corpses of the 3 blood ants. Their shells are rare materials for refining weapons. Lu Ming waved his hand and kept the corpses of the 3 blood ants into a storage ring. The secret territory is about to close. Myongcheng must be waiting anxiously outside. Let's go. Lu Ming's figure flashed as he ran outside. Soon, Lu Ming came out of the blood ant's nest. As soon as he came out, he saw Myongcheng anxiously pacing back and forth. Brother Ming. Lu Ming called out. Tianyun, you're finally out. I thought you were beaten by a few ants. Myongcheng let out a long breath and grinned when he saw Lu Ming. How can a few ants do anything to me? Lu Ming smiled and moved his hand. A storage ring appeared. Brother Ming, there are some blood ant eggs inside. I got them from the blood ant's nest. Take them, Lu Ming said. No. You got them with your own strength. How can I take them? Moreover, I've already gained a lot from following you into the blood ant's nest. Myongcheng waved his hand and firmly refused. Lu Ming offered more, but Myongcheng refused to take them. Seeing this, Lu Ming did not insist. He put away the storage ring and went to the exit of the secret territory with Myongcheng. The exit of the secret territory was on the easternmost mountain in the blood ant secret territory. Once the 10 days were up, the elders of the imperial family and the Hall of General would work together to open an exit for them. A light gate appeared outside the blood ant secret territory. Many figures appeared around the light gate and they were all looking at it. There were people from the imperial family and also from the Shifang sword faction. However, there were more people than 10 days ago. Moreover, some of them were floating in the air. They were all martial grandmasters. On the imperial family's side, Hua Kai was among them. At the front was the red-haired old man and Akira no Ji. Akira no Ji glanced at the imperial family and sneered. Old Monster Hong, why did you send so many people here? Are you going to settle the score with us when you see all the people from the Hall of General get killed? Do you want to fight with us? I'm just taking precautions. I'm afraid that your Shifang sword faction disciples will be at a disadvantage in the secret territory and die in there. If that happens, you'll be angry and harm the disciples of the Hall of General. The red-haired old man replied with a sneer. Ha ha ha. Akira no Ji laughed and said, my Shifang sword faction disciples will be at a disadvantage? Die in there. With your Hall of General. That's impossible. That will never happen. Life is unpredictable. The red-haired old man said. That's impossible. Let me tell you clearly that killing is not prohibited in the blood ant secret territory. If my Shifang sword faction disciples really die in there, it's because they're not strong enough. They can't blame anyone. Are you afraid that we'll attack? What a joke. Akira no Ji said calmly. That's what you said. Remember it. The red-haired old man snorted. Old red monster, you're so confident. Don't tell me you think that Tianyun can pose a threat to my Shifang sword faction disciples. Let me tell you, that's impossible. At this moment, that Tianyun has already died in the hands of my Shifang sword faction elites. Akira Noji sneered. Died in the hands of your Shifang sword faction disciples? I don't think so. The red-haired old man said. Don't think so? Well then, how about we make a bet? I have a piece of heavenly star mithril here. I heard that you have a Yunluo fruit. I'll use the heavenly star mithril to bet with you on the Yunluo fruit. How about that? Akira Noji said. Many people were shocked when they heard that. What? Heavenly star mithril, Yunluo fruit? Such a big bet. A martial arts grandmaster expert exclaimed. Heavenly star mithril was an extremely precious refining material. It was a top level 4 material and could be used to refine level 4 spiritual weapons. The Yunluo fruit was a level 4 spiritual medicine and could be used to refine level 4 elixirs. Level 4 materials and spiritual medicine belonged to the martial arts grandmaster level and were extremely precious. The Heavenly Star Mithril and the Yunluo fruit were top level 4 items. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,